Hey y'all, I'm Bud Elliott, and this is Cover 3 College Football Summer School. We've done our research on the teams, and now we're bringing on the top team experts from the 24/7 Sports Network to help us fill in the blanks. Please follow us on Twitter at Cover 3 Podcast. That's Cover 3 Podcast. And leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. All right, class is in session. Hey guys, Bud Elliott here of the Cover 3 College Football Podcast. Really appreciate you joining us, and this is another edition of our summer school series where we take my notes and we ask an expert from the 24/7 Sports Network about kind of where we're right, where we're wrong, what we're expecting about these teams. And today we're going to talk a little Mississippi State Bulldogs. Had another strong year under Mike Leach. And to help us out, we're going to bring on Robbie Fox of Mississippi State 24/7 Sports. Robbie, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, bud. Good to be here.
Pretty good mood in Starkville, I would think, coming off the year they had and all they bring back this year.
You would think so, but it's kind of apathy. Is that the word? I mean,
oh man,
I know. Isn't it strange? I mean, at a place like Mississippi State, where people have kind of grown accustomed to, if you can get to a bowl game, you can beat Ole Miss, you're in good shape. And the problem is they're not beating Ole Miss. They are getting to bowl games, but it's kind of by default. I mean, everybody's getting to a bowl game now. And just the way that the season ended last year, I think left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. You had kind of a strong close until you get to the Egg Bowl. It's a rainy night in Starkville. You drop a couple of touchdowns, and you end up losing that ball game with a chance to go to a significantly better bowl if you win. And then you go and you play Texas Tech in Memphis, and you just fall flat on your face. You had a lot of guys out with COVID. You had Charles Cross and Martin Emerson sitting out for the NFL draft, and it was just not a good performance. And I think just those last two ball games really put a bad taste in the mouths of fans, when in reality it was a big step forward, I thought, for Mississippi State in year two under Mike Leach. You go from scoring 20 points a game or whatever he did in year one, and at times not able to really move the football like they wanted to really being a consistent offense and seeing a lot of growth from Will Rogers in year two. So I think there should be more excitement about this team going into this season, because in all reality, you're returning the bulk of this offense. You're returning a lot of big pieces on defense. And I feel like Mike Leach gets better and better as he kind of moves along, especially in year three when he has his system implemented for 3 seasons.
No doubt about it. You mentioned that offense. Opponent adjusted, they were 28th nationally. I take out the bowl game numbers in my own numbers, because I feel like nowadays bowl games are more a little more noise than they are signal. But Will Rogers, very strong year last year. You get most of the skill position guys back. You do lose Mekhi Polk, Malik Heath at receiver, but they throw the ball to Marks an absolute ton. You get Wally, you get John. They throw the ball to Johnson a good bit as well. Passing game wise, I think this sets up fine, but I do have some questions about the offensive line. Losing Charles Cross, losing Sharp, losing Scott Lashley. How worried are you about what they have up front?
Well, they actually got Sharp back for 6 years.
They did? Okay.
Yes. So that was a huge piece to return at the center. But you're missing your 2 tackles, and that's a major concern. You're missing a guy that's going to be picked in the first round of the NFL draft, and Charles Cross, probably one of, if not the best left tackles you've ever had, especially in the passing game. So you're probably not going to be better at that position, but you don't have to be better than Charles Cross there. You just have to be adequate. You just have to have somebody come in there and not have Will Rogers running for his life. And at right tackle, they didn't have a great season from Scott Lashley. So you need somebody to be a little bit better than what he was last year. And there are some pieces there. They brought in the number 1 tackle in JUCO and Percy Lewis. They have a couple of other pieces that I feel like could slide in there. Cam Jones is an experienced lineman that they could play at right tackle if they needed to, but he's probably better at guard. You'd like to keep him at guard. So there's really a lot of question marks there, and I don't know if a whole lot got answered in the spring because they were moving a lot of guys around. So, that'll be something that's going to have to be settled in the fall, but it has to be settled in the fall. You can't go into that first game with a ton of question marks at tackle, especially in an offense that's going to pass the ball 50-plus times a game.
No doubt about it. Well, are you worried at all about receiver with Faulk and Heath leaving? Or you just trust Mike Leach is going to get guys catch the ball?
Yeah. I feel like they're going to have some guys step up there. I mean, that's kind of what this offense is. It just kind of filters in all these receivers, and it is a concern who's going to replace 105 catches or whatever Micaiah Polk had. I mean, that's a lot of catches that I don't know if one person can make up.
And 140 targets. I mean,
yeah,
that's
I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, he was super reliable too, and he was your red zone threat. He was a guy that could win one-on-one battles down the field. He could shield off somebody in the end zone and have a 10-yard catch, at the pylon. So somebody's going to have to step up and do that. I think Ra Thomas could make a big jump this year. He showed a lot of things as a true freshman last year, had a pretty good spring. He was kind of a surprise. He was a South Carolina commit for a while, and they had the coaching change, and he steps out of his recruiting for a little bit. Mississippi State was able to snag him late. I think he could have a big season. And I think, Tula Griffin's another player that could make a big jump this year. I don't think he was getting the targets that he needs. Caleb Ducking is a guy that I think could emerge as a guy to replace Malik Heath possibly. So there's some options there. Rufus Harvey took a step, I thought, in spring, a guy that's been injured a lot and hasn't got a chance to get in there. He's not a big receiver, but he plays big. He can win one-on-one battles, has really good hands. There's some options there. Jaden Wally, I didn't think had the season that he wanted to last year as a sophomore after having that big freshman year. So I think there's some players that could definitely step in. But, again, some more question marks there. There's a lot of guys that haven't had those opportunities, a lot like the tackles that you're going to see out there.
For sure. Defensively, you got to like what you have coming back. Top 4 defensive linemen in terms of snap count. Looks like 4 of the top 5, or 6 of the top 7 linebackers return as well. This should be a pretty loaded front 7, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think the front 7 should be pretty good. And you have some questions in the back end. And you still have a couple questions at linebacker, but you return enough production there, you feel pretty good about it. I think the big piece that Mississippi State's adding that they didn't have last year was Jordan Davis, who was going to be their best rusher at end, and he went down with a torn ACL before the season. So you get him back, you add him into the mix of what you're returning, and I really like this group. He didn't play in the spring, but he's going to be ready for fall. And I think he adds a ton to what they got returning. Nathan Pickering is back. Jaden Crumedy is back. You have Cam Young in the middle that's played a lot of snaps. That's going to be really good. DeMonte Russell, who took a big step last year. So the defensive line is getting back to more of that traditional Mississippi State front that has been so good in years past. The guys that have come out there. I think you're going to see a couple more NFL guys in this group too. So I think they're getting back to that. I thought the linebacking crew really surprised me last year. I thought they were really good with Buki Watson, and Jet Johnson was a big surprise. He's returning. And then you're adding in a couple of guys that didn't play much last year. You lost Aaron Brule, which I thought was a guy that could really help you from a depth perspective. He goes to Michigan State. But the front 7 as a whole looks really good.
Back end, I've always been a Martin Emerson guy. He was up here in the panhandle of Florida where I am, and I thought he was I wasn't working for 24/7 Sports at the time, but I thought when I saw him, I was like, this kid's good. I mean, like I was at a different network at the time. He ended up being a great get for Mississippi State, and ended up being he'll probably get drafted, right? I would think.
Yeah, he's getting some second, third, fourth round grades. I would expect him to go off the board probably on Friday.
Nice. And then obviously you lose Fred Peters as well. Do you think this is a significant downgraded unit, or just is the goal kind of hold sir? What are you feeling here?
Yeah, it's going to be a wait and see for me. I mean, I don't know if they're going to have anybody like Martin Emerson out there. Emmanuel Forbes, I think, is going to be really good. He's been good the last 2 years. But, Emerson was top 5 graded cornerback in the SEC in coverage the last couple of years. So he is going up against some of the best wide receivers. He's going up against the best, whoever the best is in the SEC every game, and he's held his own. He had a good showing against Georgia a couple of years ago. And the freaks that they have out there. He's had some good showings against Alabama. So that's a huge guy to replace. But I thought DeCamerion Richardson took a huge step in the spring. Really athletic kid from Louisiana, a kid that Joe Moorhead, when he was here, they thought they got a steal. And we actually gave him a 4-star rating late in the process. And he was kind of a late bloomer. Just a really freakish athlete that I think could really blossom into a good cornerback. And then you go out and you go get Marcus Banks from Alabama, who should add some good depth for him. And you go out and get DeCarlos Nicholson, who was one of the top-rated defensive backs in JUCO last year. But he's a guy that was playing quarterback a couple of years ago. This is a new position and very raw player. So you're talking about some guys that don't have a lot of reps. Marcus Banks didn't have a ton of reps at Alabama. DeCamerion Richardson just got on the field last year. Cornerback's going to be a big question mark. And then at the safety position, there's some questions there as well. But I thought Jackie Matthews was a good add from West Virginia, who's going to help them back there. And then you have several guys returning that are veterans that should be experienced. You just got to have the athletes back there to compete on a down-to-down basis with some of the best in the SEC.
We're talking to Robbie Fox, our Mississippi State 24/7 sports expert here on the Cover 3 Podcast Summer School Series. I'm going to get you out of here on this one. Field goal and punting last year was really a problem. They were actually 124th in terms of field goal available points, which is not a great – I mean, I know Mississippi State don't kick a ton of field goals, but they still kick some. And that's a problem when you're 124th. And then punting, punt efficiency was also bottom 15 in the country. Are they doing something different here, bringing in some different guys, or are they trying, having tryouts? What are they looking at?
Oh yeah, Mike Leach was adamant in upgrading that spot. He moved his running backs coach to special teams coach Eric Melee, and he also got a new kicker and a new punter, and went out and got some guys to walk on as well. But he spent scholarships on kickers and punters, and in the middle of the season last year, he had a tryout and publicly called out the kicking situation. It was that bad. I mean, which in defense of that unit, Brandon Ruiz was supposed to be the guy, and he was dealing with injuries all year, and so that was a significant blow to them. But yes, kicking cost them the Arkansas game, quite possibly cost them the Memphis game, hurt them in the LSU game. There was 2 or 3 games that it cost them that they could have won those ball games. So
they were 2 of 10 on field goals from 40 to 49 yards.
Very bad. And
they I'm not trying to rag on the kids, but that does lose you games.
I mean, they absolutely lost the game against Arkansas because of kicking. They missed like a 25-yard field goal. They missed another field goal with a chance to tie the game. So, yeah, it was bad. But they went out and got Massimo Biscardi from Coastal Carolina, who should be really good for them. Got a couple of transfers in that are walking on. And then George Georgopoulos, I think is how you say his name, from UMass, who has some really good numbers at UMass.
And UMass punts all the time.
So. Yeah, so go get the people that aren't doing anything offensively and go check out their punting numbers and see. So, yeah, and they returned a guy, Archer Trafford, who I thought was solid last year when he got an opportunity, but it should be an upgrade in special teams this year, which State desperately needs, because it really did cost them 2 or 3 ball games, which is the difference in playing in Memphis and playing in Florida somewhere.
No doubt. He dropped, I just looked it up, the kid dropped just over 30% of his punts inside the 20. So that is an improvement.
Yeah. I mean, it can't get much worse than the situation they had in special teams last year. It's almost impossible.
Absent being Nebraska's punting, that was they're 130 out of 130 with a bullet. Hey, Robbie, I really enjoyed this as always. We'll have to have you back on Cover 3 in the fall to do a little final preview of Mississippi State. Everybody, please check out Mississippi State 24/7 Sports. Those guys do a great job as Mississippi State again tries to fight and claw in the SEC West. It's never easy.
No, it's not. I appreciate you, Bud. We're just trying to make it through the spring here. A tough baseball season. These fans love baseball, and it's tough right now. And then we're going to have the dog days of summer. Could get hot in Mississippi.
No doubt about it. All right, that's the bell. Cover 3 College Football Summer School is over for today. But don't worry. We'll be back soon with even more episodes filling you in on the top teams in college football. Please give us those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on YouTube and on Twitter at Cover 3 Podcast, and we'll see y'all soon.